right. It'll slowly fade in. All right. Yes, Corey LeBlanc, this will be a good one. All right, everybody who has joined in, good morning. We'll start in just a minute. Let's just go ahead and start off with Ryan flexing by showing the view of where he's at right now. Let's get that over with. Yeah, keep smacking the like buttons, everybody. The like, the share. If you approve of Ryan's view on the balcony, oh, everybody, this is great. For folks that are dialing in behind it, yes, Veronica, we know the view behind Ryan is great. Thank you for coming in. I am jealous too, everyone, of that view, because as usual, I am broadcasting live from my 17-year-old daughter's bedroom in Jacksonville, Florida, whereas Ryan is in Nirvana or the good place, or, we'll get to where you're at in a minute, Ryan.
I'm trying to get you to move out to Utah, Sam.
I know, and my wife wants to move to Utah desperately. My last trip I took before COVID kicked in was visiting Ryan at their festival in Sundance in Utah. My wife looked at me and said, "Why do we live in Florida?" I still haven't come up with a good answer for that. We'll eventually get there. Folks that are dialing in, one, let us know where you're at in the world. Zarik, I'm sorry that it's raining in Chicago. I don't know what to tell you. It's obviously not raining in Utah right now. Grab a coffee, share this, go live, share it out to all your friends. Let them know that you're on, and jump into the conversation. If you have questions, ask. This one will be a good one today. As my friends at Robin Hood Snacks podcast like to say, this will be the best one yet. They call that a T-boy, and I like that. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 20th episode of FinTech Insider. Yes, we have been doing this for a month now. This is the Breakfast Show US, the show from the folks at 11FS, bringing you interesting insights into the fintech and banking landscape. I am Sam Maule. I'm the 11FS Managing Director for North America, based down in Jacksonville, Florida, again, broadcasting live from Alexander Maule's, my 17-year-old daughter's bedroom. And I'll be your host today. Let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear it from our viewers, where you're based. Ask questions on the live stream. I will ask Ryan those. Today, we are happy to be joined by Ryan Caldwell, the CEO and founder of MX, the company that helps organizations harmonize the money experience for their customers. I love that phrase. Today, we're going to talk about the importance of digital in the changing landscape and how MX can help support customers at risk using data. And Ryan, go ahead and brag. Where are you at right now? What part of the world?
So I'm actually in the same city as our headquarters. So it's Lehi, Utah, and it's nestled between Salt Lake City, Park City, and if you go around the corner, up by Sundance. And like you mentioned, we have these fintech festivals we host every few months, and it's an opportunity for everybody to get up in the mountains. And I'm a few stones throw away from the mountains, so I'm not quite in the mountains, but I'm in the hills leading up to the mountains. And Sundance is just amazing. We get an opportunity to get away and have everybody come out. And so I thought Utah's too beautiful to be stuck inside, so I pulled a deck chair out here, and it's just sitting on my deck in Lehi, Utah.
And let me tell you, for those that aren't aware, and I'm going to let Ryan brag a little bit about it. We call this whole area in Utah the Silicon Slopes, right? So we're talking Provo and from Salt Lake on down. Can you take just a minute in talking about the fintech scene in that part of the world?
Actually, I saw you wear hats in one of your last episodes. This is a Silicon Slopes shirt, little MX logo on there. Yeah, the companies here, they're really proud of the environment. The tech scene here is super active, and just like Silicon Valley, I mean, we've got our incredible snow. So a few early entrepreneurs, Josh James and others, came up with the name Silicon Slopes, and it stuck. But yeah, it's just a hotbed of innovation. A lot of people are focused on enterprise SaaS style businesses. Tends to have a strong vein here in Utah. So these are highly scaled organizations that power the infrastructure or the platforms behind a lot of big solutions. You think about Qualtrics, just sold to SAP for about $8 billion. And Qualtrics powering a huge amount of surveys, insights, the experience for a general company. So Qualtrics, Domo, Pluralsight, those types of companies exist here in Utah. So MX is proud to call this home. We're really lucky that it affords us to be right next to the mountains, which for conferences So often it's hard to get people to come out to your headquarters and really get a feeling for the company. But for us, having Sundance has been a wonderful way to engage with people, but also a wonderful draw to get people to come out and spend a few days in the mountains, but also talk about banking.
Yeah, let me tell you guys. I go to a lot of conferences. I speak at a lot of conferences at 11FS. We're very active, and Ryan is too. MX, when it came to Finovate, basically was the New York Yankees or Man United of Finovate. They just liked to win and did win constantly at that conference. But we spend a lot of time on stages at conferences, and I will flat out say the MX conference that they do at Sundance every year tops my list because you do it right. You keep it small, you keep it intimate. Everyone has a chance to meet with the speakers and talk with them and learn. You don't make it over 80 days, right? How many years you been doing it now?
Man, we've been doing it now for 6+ years.
Good Lord. Yeah. I mean, and when we talk about speakers, like they had Andy Savage from Mythbusters this year, which, by the way, just I geeked out. I am a sci-fi nerd to no end, and my daughter's nodding vigorously behind the screen. You guys can't see that. Having somebody like him speak was fantastic. I absolutely loved it. It was just great. And the reason I love MX, besides a million other things, the T-shirts, man. Ryan can pull off a T-shirt. Only person I know is as many T-shirts as David Breyer and I have when it comes to fintech. So good job, Ryan.
Well, it's funny. I always see you wearing the dinosaur T-shirt. Right?
I love the dinosaur T-shirt.
I love that one. So I have my youngest daughter, my 4-year-old daughter. You'd say someone's like 4 going on 5.
Yeah.
My 4-year-old is 4 going on dinosaur. So she's convinced that she's a dinosaur. Literally will only walk on all 4s except for like certain situations, and growls and eats leaves, things like that. So she's pretty adorable. But every time I see your shirt, she's got a couple of those dinosaur cartoon shirts as well.
I do have that inflatable T-Rex outfit, and I'm so disappointed I didn't wear it to do this interview. One of these times, I'm just going to sneak it in and wear it. That would be awesome. So unlike what we like to call dinosaurs or legacy companies, MX, one of the brilliant things about y'all is your tech and the solutions you provide. So I'm giving you the opportunity right now for an international audience, and it is international on this show. Tell us a little bit about MX, why you founded the company, what your mission is.
So MX, we're all about harmonizing financial data. And so when you think about harmonizing the money experience and you think about what does that mean? We all have those times that we interact with money where you're just like, that was a horrible experience, right?
Yeah.
I can think of many, many examples, but some of the most poignant examples for me are times that I just needed to get several years ago, just get money from point A to point B. Now, luckily, we have a lot of these fintechs that are rapidly innovating, but the problem is the fintechs are either doing niche solutions. So it's the question of, are you building a real comprehensive solution, or are you just building a feature? And the banking industry, we see that certain fintechs need to be powered to build their either features or their platforms. And there's some great platforms out there that are fintechs. But the existing banking industry, it's massive. And there's a huge amount that they need to do to take the money experience from what's just simply not okay anymore. What used to work and what used to be considered not just good enough, like average, but what used to be considered leading edge for banking is falling completely behind. I think this whole experience with COVID has definitely shown us that. It's an accelerated version of putting that pressure for the transformation to a true digital experience. But at MX, we basically help banks take our financial data, so take the MX data, that quality of data, we inject that into these experiences to create these compelling experiences that help them grow. And we do that through a few different means. One, we help them collect that data. So when you think about all of the different systems that they have internally, that they have to connect and then be able to data warehouse and data lake and be able to do analytics on. Plus, banks really need to think outside of the box. They can't just think about what they're selling to their customers. They have to think about everything that their customers want to buy from a financial perspective. So now they have to aggregate all that data together. So for the first time ever, banks are really realizing that they have to understand, if they don't provide the 401k or the health savings account, they still have to aggregate that to understand how to best advise or guide their consumer. If they didn't provide the auto loan, if they didn't provide the mortgage, that's okay, but to not be informed about it and not to help guide their customers' financial life so that they can be financially strong, to not do that is below the bar. So we help them collect that data internally and externally. Then we help them enhance it and we augment it with additional data sources so that we can really understand what it does. And then we help them do analytics on it, present that data, and then act on that data internally, but also help their end users act on that data as well.
So good question from Corey in Ruston, Louisiana at Origin Bank. How important do you feel getting access to autonomous financial services, so algorithm-based financial decisions and advice, will be in helping correct, this lack of understanding we have around finances right now? And how close do you think fintech is to offering a robust, trusted set of these autonomous advisory services? Well done, Corey.
So I think it's excellent question, Corey. Good to hear from you. It's absolutely critical at this point. We're not going to be able to achieve. We're looking at everything across all of life. If you look at everything, everything's becoming more and more automated, more and more, and it has to be. And a lot of times when we look at trends, I always try to look at what's the underlying driver that's causing that trend. So why are consumers getting more and more exhausted with having to do anything that's not automated? And I think the answer is that our jobs are becoming so specialized. And so if you look at the trend over the last several hundred years, honestly, but especially the last few decades, people are getting more and more specialized in their careers, which means their learning just is accelerating. They have to know certain subjects so deeply. And as that kind of creates almost a horse blinder, myopic kind of view of what their world it has to be focused on, they can't be worried about, they have to automate their health. They have to automate. Their finances. They have to automate their payments, right? Their house payments, their car payments. Yeah. They want to automate their driving. They're like, if I could recover that 30 minutes or that hour driving to work, and I could have that be automated, that'd be better. Or they're having to do so many phone calls or switching in and out of phone calls or conference calls as they're driving, that ability for the car to warn them that they're drifting out of their lane, or that they're not slowing down in time to hit the car ahead of them. When I look at finances, I draw this corollary between the auto industry because it's so palpable, and we all get the auto industry because we're all driving these cars. Yeah. And when you're driving along and you're thinking about all these things that are on your mind that are worried, it's nice to know that the company that provided you that vehicle said, you know what, there's data out there. We could go get that data. There's a little radar thing that we can put. There's a little camera we can put that can sense or detect or calculate how far away the car is ahead of you. If that car is braking, if that distance is decreasing, if you're in a certain lane, if you're drifting out of that lane, and it can take all that data, and then it can now analyze it and enhance it and say, okay, we're going to take meaningless data, turn it into meaning. That's a car. Every time they get a Tesla update, you see that it's, this is now a stop sign. It'll recognize it as a stop sign, a stop light, guardrail. And so as it keeps coming out, it's taking what was just a bunch of image data, garbage, and it's saying, no, this is a distinct object that now you should care about. Then the next step is it says, okay, now I'm going to take all these understandings of this data, and I'm going to plot you a safe path to get you from point A to point B. And consumers love it. And the reason why they love it is because they're overwhelmed. So I think banks need to realize that, especially when it comes to people's financial lives, they're completely overwhelmed with their careers, with their families. And if you can step in and automate that financial, their financial journey, so that they can end up being financially strong along the path in their life, that's critical.
There's a phrase that, man, it gets overused like crazy, that data is the new oil. Right. And right now, any comparison to oil is a bad comparison. God knows. But you hear that phrase a lot. And I always look at that and I'm like, it's not data. Data is like oxygen, right? Data is like water in the ocean. It surrounds us. It's everywhere. And it's how you use that data that's important. I would argue time is the new oil. Giving back time, which was what you just said, right? Yeah. Especially, think about what we've gone through in this COVID experience, right? Where we're all self-isolating and we're going through this. Being able to maximize your time to really focus in on what matters. To me, that's everything. And that kind of ties in with what you just said.
And I think
that t-shirt made.
Yeah, I think that's a part of what we mean when we say money experience, right?
Yeah.
That it's a beautiful interaction with your money because the data makes it that way. And if you think about those times that you drive along and your car beeps as you're changing lanes and you just forgot to look, and you're normally a great driver, but it saved you that one time. And then you barely miss from an accident. And it may happen to certain people a whole lot more than others, right? But all of us have experienced some degree of that, right? Where you, I can't believe that was me. I'm usually the great driver, but I almost, and knowing that you have someone who gives you a safety net and kind of has your back is a really critical part of the modern idea of a brand. And so when banks think about their brand, are they providing a money experience that wows their customers? And there's so many levels of that, and we're really at the beginning of what that's going to mean long term. Like we're actually at the absolute beginning of what that's going to mean. But even right now, you can feel it, right? I think when these stimulus checks came out, did your bank have the data that enabled a user to immediately know, okay, well, what's safe to spend? Like, well, when am I going to hit zero in my account? Can I model out my cash flow? Well, MX data powers all of those solutions. We provide a lot of those solutions right out of the box, right? So you can look at cash flow and see your recurring payments and estimate when you're going to hit zero and see it in a nice little graph. And you can see it bounce back up before right at your next paycheck. And you can calculate if you're okay. That's one of hundreds of possible solutions or thousands that you could provide. And I think banks are now realizing they have to do that. To Corey's question of how far away are we, the nice thing is we're really there right now for the first stages. Again, we're still at the beginning, but the first stages were there. I think the really cool evolution that's occurring at this moment is we're going from these tools that a user has to log in and say, okay, that tool is so useful, but they have to log in and use the tool. This version that's coming out right now, like MX Pulse, with MX Pulse, the user has to do nothing. And the difference is the difference between someone logging into Facebook in the early days and having to go search for someone or go explore versus it just gives you a feed. And it says, I already know what you care about. I already know what you're worried about. I'm going to show you what's relevant to you. Imagine logging into your mobile banking experience or your online banking experience and seeing right there all the things that you're 99.9% likely to look at, that the machine learning is constantly trying to figure out, what can I do to help you? What can I do to guide you? And what do you care about and learn?
So for the folks that haven't read the news today, I'm not trying to depress everybody. I'm just here to inform. Consider that 4.8% decline. The first 2 months of the year were great, by the way. So that's 1 month's worth of impact. So we've got a quarter coming up after this that will probably be staggering. When we look at the economic impact, we know that consumers already in the U.S. haven't been great savers, and I'm generalizing, but 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So again, when you look at the solutions that you're providing banks and when you're working with them and we're looking at the situation that we're going through, this is going to be a weird sounding question, Ryan, but what opportunities excite you when you look at that? Because I mean, this is a chance to actually PFM. I'm going to say that. So personal financial management in the U.S. has never, as compared to other parts of the world, has struggled to take off. And I think part of it is it was implemented wrong. I think the solutions are great. I think it's like you said. I love how you talked about if you logged in, it was proactively there for you, right? It became an integrated part of your life. So when you look at what we're coming out of, I don't know if opportunity is the right word to use, but advancements, how's that? What excites you when you look at this?
I actually think that there is a huge amount of opportunity.
Why?
I think that one of the biggest opportunities is just for learning. I think a lot of there's a wake-up call. And remember, wake-up calls, as painful as they can be, have a huge amount of value. And especially when you don't ignore the wake-up call. But the wake-up call right now, I mean, it tells us pretty clearly that you need not just a sufficient digital experience, but you need a phenomenal digital experience. And I think that I wrote an article about Chick-fil-A as an example, because the reason why I thought it was an important thing to call out, and again, I'm always looking for things that people can immediately relate to, like relating to driving a car. Aren't you glad that someone took the time to gather that data and protect you, right?
Yeah.
With Chick-fil-A, I mean, we all go through a restaurant drive-through here or there, and when you see a time that's absolute crisis like COVID-19, this whole experience, and if you ask somebody, hey, how are restaurants doing? They would tell you, well, restaurants are doing horrible. I mean, they can't even have anyone in their lobby. They can't. I mean, they've got to be suffering to an indescribable degree. But yet, I drove past a Chick-fil-A that's in between my home and office a few weeks ago. It was probably, I don't know, maybe a month and a half ago. And I saw that they were drilling holes in the parking lot for putting up additional signs. And I was guessing that it was for mobile ordering spots. And I thought, well, that's interesting, but that seems like, I mean, that's really leaning in on the investment side. And I said, I'm curious. And then I looked over more and I saw that the line wrapped completely around the Chick-fil-A, and that every spot was taken that was not one of the spots they were building for mobile ordering, or thereabout, right? And so I decided, you know what, I've got that app on my phone, just like a Starbucks app or my Beans and Brew app. And so I open the app and order a breakfast burrito, and I slide into the drive-through lane, and it's amazing. I don't have to give my credit card cash. It's all automated. It's super easy. And I pull up to the drive-through window, and all I have to do is tell them that my name's Ryan and give me my order, and they hand it to me. And I said, hey, I'm curious. Can I talk to your manager about what's going on out here? This holes they're drilling. And I asked him, how are you guys doing? And he said, we're doing great. And he said, this is actually an opportunity, because we used to have people who would come in and take up 45 minutes to an hour for each parking spot, which we only had a certain number. And then they'd come in and they'd take up a table for 45 minutes to an hour, that we have to clean that table and we have to clean the whole restaurant. Now that whole burden of expense of cleaning is down. The whole takes 5 minutes to 10 minutes at most that someone stays in a parking spot. So we're able to rotate through more people. Plus, a ton of people are coming through the drive-through with mobile orders. So we're adding 12 mobile stations, 12 registers that do nothing but just take mobile orders and handle mobile orders in the back of the restaurant, where consumers wouldn't even see it in the lobby. So here they're actually lowering expenses, becoming more efficient during a time that's supposed to crush their industry.
Yeah. And I think
lesson in there.
Yeah, I agree. And that, by the way, that post was really good, and a lot of people commented on it. I think what we're seeing is organizations, companies that were preparing not for a pandemic, but we're moving more and more into a digital and a real-time experience, are not only surviving but doing well in this time frame. I talked about this a couple of days ago. Target talking about their sales for Q1, and while their in-store traffic dropped dramatically, because the way that they had set up and done a really good job, their online sales do tremendously well. Same with Walmart, right? Amazon, I'm not even going to go there. But other restaurant chains that have done this, that have kind of stepped up and prepared for this in the good times. That's when you see this type of movement happening. And I agree with you, man. It's amazing what takes us to tipping points, right? Yeah. To quote Malcolm Gladwell, tipping point moments you hardly ever notice until they're well in the past, And I think.
Good.
No, I'm just saying we're easily living through one, and have been, I'd say, for the past couple of years prepping for this.
One thing that's really interesting is, so when I was so fascinated watching, because the restaurants, it's so transparent what they're going through, because they're wearing it on their sleeves, right? That I actually took, and at some point I should do a post about that, because I couldn't help but take pictures of how all the different restaurants were handling the crisis. So certain restaurants were so ill prepared that they literally had to grab their cleaning cone, those cones they use for cleaning, put it out in front of a parking spot, tape a sheet of paper with a marker written on it, call this number, we're still open, that kind of a thing. Just begging people to order. No app experience, no ability to reorder your favorites that you already selected, your specifics you want, no ability to not have to give a credit card or those things. They ran out. Then I saw other restaurants ran out and put out folding chairs and taped poster board to it. And other people, you see all these different experiences of people who were caught completely flat-footed, not preparing for a digital experience, and then all of a sudden it was thrust on them. The other thing that's really interesting is that I think that from an opportunity standpoint, all these people who may have never downloaded, say, a Starbucks app or a Chick-fil-A app or an online banking app, and they just felt more comfortable going in and depositing the check in person, or even going through the drive-through. Now all of a sudden, that the hours are restricted, or a whole bunch of branches are closed. Like, so Chase has a bunch of their branches that are closed in certain areas here. Well, you have to go drive, another 3 branches away to get service. And so that creates an opportunity for someone to say, I'm going to download my, regional community bank, my credit union app, banking app. I'm going to download that, and I'm going to try RDC for the first time. Now, if you've made those experiences beautiful, if you've made those experiences powered by data, then that user is going to walk away saying, okay, that was awesome. I'm not going to go to that branch anymore. So now you've continued to lower your branch cost and then engage digitally with the customer. And so that's where I think there's a lot of opportunity, is that users that would have taken a lot longer to migrate to digital are being forced to migrate ahead of schedule. But if you have a bad experience that you've thrust them into, then they're going to kind of start to disconnect from your brand, and they're going to latch out. They're going to latch onto or connect to any brand that will give them a better experience.
So Gene, Zarek, and the others that have been asking great questions, we'll make sure we get these over to Ryan so he can answer those. When you do a half-hour show, you run out of time really quick. So apologies for that. But I'm going to be selfish, and I'm going to ask a question of mine because I do think it's important. Ryan, just go ahead and blush, or I don't care what you do, because I'm going to talk about you and I'm going to talk about the company. So I've been a big proponent of MX for a while as a company, and a lot of that has to do with the leadership of the company. I'll just say this: go out and look at the benefit package and the employee engagement that MX has. Y'all set the bar incredibly high for other companies.
Thank you.
When you go through, and by the way, and I'll post this. There was just a story today. One of the folks that works for you, wife is a nurse in Utah. She took a leave of absence, flew to New York, and has been on the front lines for like the past 4 weeks, working, incredibly long days. You see those pictures of the nurses and doctors with their, the marks on their face and all that. That's this guy's wife, and their wedding anniversary just came up. And so she's, apart from her husband and kids, and he all sent them a care package out of the blue. They had no clue it was coming. And the guy just, the write-up he did, your best brand ambassadors are your employees, always. I don't care what company you're at. And so how you treat your employees means everything. So here's the question, Ryan. What's your view or the role of leadership in a time like this? Are you a cheerleader? Are you a BD guy? Are you what is it that you think leaders really need to focus in on times like this for their companies?
I think, my answer is pretty universal with this. And first I have to give a huge amount of credit to the team. This is, I saw our people ops team, culture team reach out about these packages they're sending out, and they've done a lot of this. And what's really interesting is that a lot of it comes from each team. It's all of the individual teams. It could be engineering, it could be people ops, it could be finance, it could be MX, our client services team, MX CX, it could be sales. They all lean in and say, hey, we should do this. Hey, we should do this. And then our people ops team and others help make sure that happens. So I got to give a huge amount of credit to them. And from a cultural standpoint, I'm blessed to be around other execs that are just phenomenal leaders in and of their own right. Brandon DeWitt, James Daughter, Nate Gardner, and on and on and on. And these are phenomenal individuals. They're not just charismatic leaders with great vision, but they talk a lot internally. We talk a lot about what's the right thing to do. So even small businesses, where we leaned in and we didn't cancel any of our contracts. We cater in food every week for our team. And we said, these small businesses are going to get crushed if all of a sudden everyone starts canceling these orders. Yeah. So let's keep those orders alive, and let's send that food to first responders at the local hospitals, to the firefighters, to the police officers. So we still kept that small business getting that paycheck that they needed, that business they needed, and tried to redirect it. But again, that comes from the team wanting to do that. It surfaces internally. So I think the key, I put it in one word, it's empathy. I think that if you want to build great products, you have to be empathetic to your users. If you want to be a good business partner, you have to be empathetic to the people that you're going to partner with on their platforms. And that definitely translates to your people, to these people who help build this great company that you're trying to keep on the rails, and you're trying to keep it on that path and keep doing the right thing and keep growing aggressively and taking care of customers. It's not possible if you're not constantly thinking about what is it like to be a team member at MX. Yeah. So that empathy is important.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of MX folks jumping on the comments just talking about how much they love working there. This is a true story, and I'll end with this. So when I was at the Sundance Festival in February that y'all had, my wife came with me. She's never met Ryan. She's never met Ryan's treasurer. She'd never met Brian. We had a dinner, and I introduced her to your wife, treasurer. Within about a minute, they were crying and hugging and sharing experiences, but we don't need to go into. The same with
I married up. I married up.
Yeah,
that's
yeah, you did. It seems to be a consistent theme in the show. John Wash, looking at you, you married up. Same with you, Corey, by the way. But also with Brian DeWitt. Brian is a cancer survivor, a cancer thriver. I don't even think survivor is the right word with Brian, but her and Brian, the hugs and the sharing of the stories of that. So that word empathy is one I've been emphasizing for the past 2 months. The companies that have real empathy will really come out of this with a customer base that's incredibly loyal, and we'll remember. I mean, people will remember this. Okay, folks, I'm sorry we've run out of time. Ryan, where's the best place for folks, one, to get in contact with you for questions and learn more about MX?
Yeah, you can reach out to me on Twitter or LinkedIn, and happy to answer any questions. And I'll try to work with our marketing team to get actually posted.
Yeah, and they will, folks. All right, thanks for joining, everybody. Sam Maule on Twitter. Tomorrow, I'm joined by Lee Wetherington and Ben Metz from Jack Henry. Oh, my God, pray for me tomorrow. There's no telling where this is going to go tomorrow, and Ryan knows that. All right, for anyone you want to talk with me, reach out to Sam Maule on Twitter, or if you have a guest you'd like to have us on or a topic, reach out to us at podcast@11fs.com. Everyone, thank you so much for the great questions and being part of this. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks, Sam.